What's that, about a 62?
Okay, welcome to another meeting. There's going to be a lot new tonight. Because the little things are broken and it kind of mix it up a little here too. So we'll see what happens. Always something. As usual, we'll start off with our announcements. Coming up next Friday, Dave Bush is going to kick off the SIG meetings, the special interest groups, which are going to be every Thursday evening, first time since COVID. And Dave's going to kick it off with a talk on mirrorless cameras, everything you need to know. That is next Friday.
What's that, about a 62?
The week after, September 16th, is our photojournalism. There's going to be a lot. Always competition. And September 16th is our photojournalism display. Next Friday, Dave Bush is going to kick off the SIG meetings. I like to repeat myself.
Do we need to censor you?
The third Friday, September 23rd, is going to be another print competition, Nature. And with that Nature print competition, Eric, who's here tonight from Dodd Camera, is going to presenting the other stuff, tripod, color balance, etc., before the Nature competition. September 30th, we are going to have a Zoom presentation from Stan and Shirley Berman, exploring France and Italy. They took a photographic journey through France and Italy, and we'll be going through all of their photos then. Interesting. The air show is coming up, starting this Saturday. We have still a few tickets available for Monday. I think we have 7 of the box seats left. There is a link on our website. If you still want to get those, give that a click. This Tuesday, September 6th, it's going to be the kickoff of our second mentor-mentee group. It's going to be at the CPS Clubhouse here. All the mentors will be here. We encourage all prospective mentees to come with the presentation. The mentors are going to be showing their work as well. For those who can't make it, we are going to be doing this as a Zoom meeting as well. September 25th on Sunday is the celebration of life for Rob Herrick. We will be having a memorial at that time. A lot of you have sent me candidates of Rob as well. If any of you have any more pictures of Rob, please send them in, or any little remembrances, so that I can read them and we can show them that evening. The coffee house exhibit. We've gotten a fair amount of entries for that, and it is still open till midnight tonight. So, keeping the link open tonight's the deadline. Anything Little Italy, Severance Hall, Lakeview Cemetery, Coventry Road, Botanical Gardens. Anything you want to enter. And this is for an exhibit that will be displayed at the coffee house at University Circle. So deadline is midnight tonight, and it's a digital submission. So you can just go home and upload those pictures. The next exhibit coming up, which was just announced, is Westlake Port Public Library. The theme for this one is going to be outdoors. Outdoor. I like that kind of theme because outdoors is basically anything that's not indoors, which means landscapes, cityscapes, nature photography, street photography, anything. If it's inside, bring it outside and photograph it as well. It'll qualify. All the information is going to be on our CPS competitions page, and the upload link will become live on 4th in 2 days. Field Trip Photo Gallery, I'm keeping those links current. We've had a fair amount of uploads to that. After any field trip, you can just upload any of your images that you want in our gallery up there, and they're on display for the whole club. Field trip candidates are still needed when you're out on that field trip. When you're at the air show, those of you going, look for other CPS members who are having fun. That's have to be having fun. Take some candidates of them, send it in to DRD, which is Darkroom Door Editor, at clevelandphoto.org so that we can use them in the darkroom door. Fall school enrollment is still underway. We are already into the fundamentals class, but Intro to Photoshop, Photo Editing, and Lightroom Classic are still taking enrollees. And again, for this fall session, Pixel is giving a $50 gift certificate or from Pixel Connection for camera equipment for all new enrollees. CPS name tags, we're doing it a little different now after COVID, is the new name tags for members will have your name and the date joined. So we're not doing the 5 and 10-year ones anymore. Those of you who have 5 or 10-year ones, save them up to eBay with them. They're probably worth a lot. No charge for name tags. They're going to be by request only. I have a sign-up sheet in the back, a yellow sheet. Just put your name there. You don't have to worry about the year you joined. They look that up, and we will get you a name tag. And of course, this and all of our Friday meetings are going to be on our YouTube channel, so you can watch them at any time, all of our competitions. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Eric Wethington from Dodd. It's all yours, Eric.
Thank you. Is this thing on? All right, good. Who's the type? Hi, Eric. I'm a photographer. I've been working for Dodd Camera for about almost 30 years now. Many of the different stores. I am currently at the Solon location, so if you want to come visit, feel free to stop. I've been a member of CPS for more than 5 years. I got my 5-year 30-ish years. At the Solon store, we do printing, so if you don't want to print your own photos, feel free to submit them through the website. If you tag the Solon store, it's usually either me or Deb, and both of us have been with Dodds for more than 20 years. I got 30 years, she's got 20. Are doing the printing, so, you know, hopefully we know what we're doing. And you're not going to get something that's a machine that has not been calibrated in some Walmarts or Targets, and you get weird exposures. Usually we're pretty good at balancing, keeping the machines maintained. We also have a moderate selection of used gear. I brought a few pieces with me. And also the resurgence of film, which is kind of surprising. At the moment, we're having problems keeping color film in stock. So whether or not you've got a pocket film camera from 25 years ago or a SLR film camera from 20 some odd years or 30 or 40 years old, there's some cool new films that you may want to try. If you haven't shot a roll of black and white in a while, black and white film does look different than digital black and white. You get some nicer tones and gradients that you just can't quite see in digital unless you really know how to work in Photoshop. Certain film cameras can accept the same lenses as your digital bodies. So if you've got a digital Rebel or a 90D Canon or a Nikon 7000 series body or my Pentax K1, those lenses can go back and forth to film bodies. So if you've already got lenses, pick up on a film body, and you can usually find them pretty cheap, like less than $50. And experiment with film. It causes you to slow down a little bit, but personally, I think if you've shot film or you know how to shoot film, you get to be a better digital photographer because you are forced to slow down. You're not going bang, 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 there's 1,000 shots. You're going, you know, a lot less. So, because of that, I brought a couple rolls of film with me. Kodak Ektar, it's been around for quite some time, kind of disappeared and made a nice little comeback. Only one speed available, 100 speed, nice, bright, sunny day type stuff. Very saturated in its colors. Again, kind of hard to get a hold of. Good old standby HP5 black and white. Students love this stuff. Kodak Tri-X is very similar, so if you ever, yeah, those are two good ones to pick up on. Then we have two new brands that some of you may have never heard of. Lomography, and they've got a bunch of different ones. This is Lady Gray. Lady Gray is a black and white film with a lot more grayscale gradients. So you're not getting maybe rich black tones here, but you're getting more grayscale. It's kind of fun to play with. And then those are lab downtown Cleveland does. If you drop them off at Solon's, usually about a week and a half cycle to get back to us. Or if you drop them off at the Cleveland store, just a couple of days. There's another film company called Film Photography Project. They kind of have some more exotic black and whites. This is a 25 speed. They also make an ISO 6, very high contrast. I've shot a little of that. That's very high contrast. However, because the way that we process our lab, or process our film at the Cleveland store, it's high temperature water and it kind of goes through fast. This is a different type of base. It's a thinner base material than traditional black and white, and our machine is 50-50 whether or not it gets snagged. So if you hand develop, this is cool. If you or send it out, but our machine at Dodge is probably not the best for these. And that's it for my film stuff. Okay. Everybody knows what these are. These are memory cards. However, there are differences between each one, and I'm not just talking the brain. Okay. So this is the typical SanDisk card just about everybody has. They're probably within $1 price of each other. However, in most common cases, you're fine on this through a pocket digital. If you're a casual shooter, going to the park, whatever. However, Where this guy differs is this is actually the slowest of the cards. On every SD memory card, there's a couple of numbers to pay attention to that some people don't. First thing you pay attention to is how fast it can go. This card can go up to 80 megs a second, which is pretty fast. It can handle most small burst modes in JPEG. However, its minimum speed is only 10 megs a second, which means it can slow down that far. If you're trying to shoot RAW plus JPEG at the air show, you're going to get 5 shots and your camera's going to say, processing. And it's going to take 30 seconds for it to recover. Okay. This can't handle raw JPEG burst modes, but for most pocket cameras, it's fine. So then we get you a little faster. And now your maximum's about 100 megs a second, so a little faster. But its minimum's 30. So now we're starting to handle, I can handle bursts of JPEGs through most SLRs, crop sensor stuff, 42 meg full frame stuff like a Nikon Z7, well they use a different memory card, but probably not. But in most casual high school sports situations, this guy should be fine. Any 1080 video is fine. Most pocket cameras, 4K video is fine. If I'm going to start doing 4K, 6K, 8K video, no, this will buffer out just the same. So then we creep a little faster. Max speed 170. Still minimum 30, but now it can burst a little faster. This guy actually comes with a card reader. We get even fast. Those are all what they call UHS 1 series cards. Pretty much every camera out there right now and for probably the past 15 years can take those. Okay. In the past 5 years, you now have UHS 2 cards. Max speed 250, max speed 300. Minimum 60, minimum 90. So this card's minimum speed is faster than that first card's maximum speed. Some cameras can't handle a UHS 2 card, check your compatibility. But this can handle any of the 4K videos, and you're good, you're solid. No buffer issues whatsoever. If you do RAW plus JPEG bursts on high resolution, instead of 30, 40 seconds, I might be 5, 10 seconds for it to clear the buffer. Then you get into some of the new cards. I brought a CF Express card with me. This is used in some of the Canons. And I think one of the Nikons, I have to double check. Nikons can also use the QXD, which is another variant. Max speed 1700. So now it's ready to go. It's like, give me more. It's like, you have 50 shots of RAW plus JPEG, do it again. It's ready. The minimum speed on this guy, I don't know if they have to even rate the minimum speed on this thing, but this is their fastest with 3.0 PLE chip, PCLE chip. This is like one of the fastest cards that are currently on the market by any company. But only certain cameras can handle a CF Express card. So, and it's mostly the mirrorless stuff. None of the traditional stuff is going to even accept that.
Then 128 gigabytes.
This is a 150.
Oh, 150.
Yeah. I've seen 128s.
I have 128.
We got in a 640 meg or 640 gig earlier today. So.
What's that cost, $1,000?
No, actually, the 650 I know is about $650. About $1 a gig. Now, granted, this 64 SD card is like $39. So kind of depends upon what you're shooting. And to go with memory cards, most laptops have card readers built into them. If you have an old one, certain desktops, there's a USB card reader for the SD cards, USB 2, download it like you would any other disk drive. However, there's now a Velocity downloader. This uses USB-C connections, and can handle the CF Express card. So if you took that card and threw it into a normal reader, it would like take forever to do a full drop, especially at 640 gigabytes. This would drop it a lot faster. So if you're using the turbo speed cards and you want it to download to your computer really fast, there's the turbo card reader. Any questions yet? I don't know how many photos, so I don't know how much time I have. And if you're like me, you wind up with a bunch of cards. I've probably got about a dozen cards floating around my house. There's ways to store them, so that way you don't lose them, because those are like little postage stamps. I'm sure I've lost more than what I currently have. There's ways to store them without being obnoxious. Well, I talked about used. There's just another used piece. We got in at the Solon store a couple of Nikon 105 micros recently. Got like 5 of them. So if you're shooting a Nikon and you're interested in a micro, we just got a nice little collection of used ones. And they are, excellent plus 2 like new condition. Let's go to general lens maintenance and camera maintenance. And I'll get to the good stuff in a minute. So, there are so many variations of cleaning cloths that are out there. This is just one of them. If you have glasses, you probably have about 6 or 7 cleaning cloths around your house. Use them. If you need to clean them, use a soft cleaning solution like Dove, or not Dove, Dawn detergent. You can send them through your wash. That's a soft enough abrasive, but let them air dry. Don't send them through the dryer. If you send them through the dryer, they'll pick up lids and stuff like that. I tend to take mine to the kitchen sink, wash it there, give it a nice little scrub, and throw it over the faucet, hour or 2, and you're good. However, there will eventually be some stuff that you can't get off. So if you haven't maybe replaced your cleaning cloth in 2 or 3 years, maybe it's time to replace it. Standard cleaning solution, yay. Again, same stuff you clean your glasses with. Any optic cleaner is fine. Don't use a glass cleaner. So don't use Fantastic, Glass Plus, or something like that. The chemical in there is a little harsh for coated optics. And then for those of us that have big fingers and can't get into the nooks and crannies to where your filter is or whatever, there are lens pens. These are cool. I've actually worn 2 of them out. At one side, you've got a brush to get your big stuff off, but on the other side, you've got a dry cleaning agent that is curved in the convex shape of an optic. So you can actually get to the edges. Now, but most people don't. I can take it out, flip it upside down, and there's a triangle shape on the other side. The triangle shape is an edger for your back screen or the LCD screen on top to get into the corners. Because again, fingers won't. And you sometimes get a little bit of cleaning agent on it. And when you put it away, just give it like a half twist, because inside the cap's got replenishment for the dry cleaning agent.
Eric,
Yes, sir.
does that last indefinitely?
No, we use them at the store level, and we're probably replacing them once a year, once every 2 years. So for a casual shooter, it might be 4 or 5 years before you got to use it. They get pretty heavy use of it at the store level, but they last. And it's a dry cleaning agent, so it's not like gonna smear, but if you touch it, you'll get some of the black stuff on your hands. Continue with general camera maintenance. How many of you have ever had your sensor cleaned or have cleaned your own sensor? See a couple hands here. Okay. If you take pictures of skies, clouds, whatever, and you're seeing out of focus water droplets on the photo every single spot, you've got dust on your sensor. Mirrorless camera is a little easier to get at because you just take off the lens and boom, there it is. There's your sensor. Mirrored cameras usually got to put it in some sort of cleaning mode. Now, when you put it in cleaning mode, where you take off the lens on your mirrorless camera and expose that sensor, grab one of these little poofers, give it a couple good hard poofs, and that should knock all that loose dust off that sensor. It's like about 80% of the time, you're good. Okay. However, sometimes you get stubborn dust. And this is about as far as some people want to go. Because with stubborn dust, a little bit of solution in swabs. And a lot of people, or a fair amount of people, don't want to put a liquid on their sensor. That's where you bring it to me and I'll do it, it does. But if you're comfortable doing that, and it's really not that hard, this will get the stubborn dust. This will get the, oops, I touched it, and there's a fingerprint on it. I've seen it. I had to clean it. I've been cleaning cameras at Dodge for about the past 10 years. At last count, I was at 2,600 camera cleanings. And I've even had special cleaning days here in the past. Probably less than 20 I have not been able to clean. Mostly because of scratched sensors. A piece of grit or sand gets caught between the sensor and the shutter blade, and as you take pictures, it scratches the crap out of it. Yes, it was not pretty. But mostly because of mold. People leaving their cameras in a damp basement. Humidity can kill a camera. But I've had probably less than 20 that I've just not been able to clean because of something to that extent. Really not that hard to clean, but.
How much does a kit cost for the
What's that?
cleaning sensor? How much does that cost?
Oh, at Dodge it's $59. And usually it's a day, maybe two. Oh, the kit, these are like $28. You get the little bottle solution and about a dozen swabs. One, maybe two swabs per cleaning. So you've got at least 6 cleanings, maybe as many as 10. As long as you're comfortable with it. Batteries, of course, you know, things to bring batteries. However, average life of a battery is about 5 to 7 years. So just pay attention if your camera's starting to go up there, or if you had a previous camera that used the same battery and you're using those batteries, some of your batteries may not be taking the charge anymore. Figure it's kind of like a car battery. How often you got to change a car battery? Maybe every 5 to 7 years. Okay, kind of same thing. Eventually they will stop taking a charge. Now, Dodge sells, usually manufacturers stuff. Some of the stuff's hard to get. The Canon LP6 right now is a little hard to get, but we actually did get one in today. But we do sell ProMaster brand. And anything that is ProMaster brand, and if you're not a Dodge shopper, that's fine. ProMaster is not just Dodge. It is a photo specialty store brand. Pixel Connection carries ProMaster. YM Camera over in Youngstown carries ProMaster. I think there's a place in Columbus, but don't quote me on that. But any ProMaster product carries a 1-year over-the-counter no-fault exchange. I.e., if this thing stops working the first year, you bring it back to me, I give you a brand new one. That goes for memory cards, it goes for tripods, it goes for bags, stitching comes undone. Bring it back with your original receipt. If you don't have the original receipt, I can look it up. So, the original receipt in hand is not a big thing.
Can I ask?
Yeah.
Like, I always get a Sony battery with my Sony camera.
Mhm.
Does that make any difference?
So the difference between, say, and Sony's batteries are a little interesting because the Sony battery has a chip in it that tells the camera on a percentage basis how accurate your battery is. I mean, where almost every other camera does a 3-bar, 2-bar, 1-bar, I'm empty. Okay. Or you get the yellow and then red, then it's empty. Sony batteries have a chip in it that will tell you on a percentage basis 78, 77, 76. You can shoot that thing down to 1%. You know, and you know how much life you have, how far you can kind of nurse it. A lot of generic batteries don't have that chip and would give you a 3-bar, 2-bar, 1-bar, I'm empty, Or in the case of earlier today, I had someone come in with an A6000 and their Sony battery wasn't reading right anymore and was just giving me a red battery. I have no clue what's in here. Camera's powered up. I had no clue how good that battery was. ProMaster batteries have that chip in it, so you will get that percentage basis. I can't say all generic batteries do, so if you get something from eBay or Amazon, you might not get that percentage basis, but I know the ProMaster was. That's how we were able to figure out her battery's dead.
So what is the advantage of getting the Sony battery instead
It says Sony on
of
it. Some people are brand loyal. And I only want Nikon bodies and Nikon lenses and Nikon batteries and Nikon flashes, and that's fine. I've got a mix. I've got ProMaster batteries for my Pentax. I just sold a Tamron lens so I could get a Pentax lens on because I needed the weather sealing. Not because I didn't like the Tamron. I just wanted the weather sealing. Of course, straps. Why would I bring a strap? Well, the straps that come with the cameras are okay. But especially if you've got a body with a big lens and a flash, that's a lot of weight. And those straps are not friendly to your neck when you've got a lot of weight. So they have cushiony straps, which will give a little bit, and if you're carrying a lot of weight, it definitely takes a load off of you there. Spreads it out a lot more. A couple other brands of straps. Peak Design, their straps are crossbody. I've got a Black Rapid one myself. I got my Black Rapid before we started carrying Peak. Kind of looks like seatbelt material. So they're pretty nice. A little bit more expensive than the standard ProMaster straps, but as far as, if you like to wear your camera crossbody so it's like right there, Peak or Black Rapid do extremely well.
Before you go,
Yes.
I can do crossbody, camera data. I'm looking for a nice chest.
An on-the-chest strap, Black Rapid made one. I forget what. Spider, I think. I didn't. Yeah. They got it. The chest. Black Rapid made one, and somebody. Peak makes a camera clip, which would block your camera like right here on like your backpack strap or whatever. But I've seen who made it? I think Optech made it. Years ago Optech was like a big name, and these wouldn't surprise me if this is probably made by Optech. But look at their catalog, see if they still have some. OPTEC. It's either EC or EK. We started carrying these Duale chargers. What's a Duale charger? Basically charge two batteries at the same time through a USB port. So if you've got a USB a power bank, you can charge your battery. So out in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the woods, if you got one of these with you, you kill the battery for some reason, or you go like, crap, I forgot to charge it, or charge my backup battery. You could have one charging in your backpack while you're walking around, and then when you kill the one battery, you should have some charge on this one to keep you going. Or it just uses any standard wall socket with a USB or plug in your computer. Charges two batteries at once. On the back of most cameras, you've got your big honking screen, and you can either get peel-away protectors for those cameras that are face on the back so the screens don't come out. Okay, kind of like your cell phone has those peel away things. But you can also get these hard shell ones. The hard shell ones, if your camera has touchscreen, will still work the touchscreen. But I've seen a lot of screens cracked over time because of dropping or other such. These do not work so well on the screens that close because it does stick out a little bit. So something like the R5, it wouldn't be able to close. So I would use either the peel away ones or just keep it closed when you might be working. But that's kind of a cool thing. Kind of like a filter thing for your screen. And then speaking of filters, I got good, better, best, and then I did not bring the holy crap, I'm expensive. Because I don't carry the holy crap, I'm expensive. All right, in the days of film, you always had UV filters. Film needed the UV filter because it was susceptible to UV haze. However, digital sensors are not susceptible to UV haze like film cameras are. Technically, they're a little bit more susceptible to the infrared spectrum, and there are special filters for that, but in most cases, nobody ever uses them. So if you're using a film camera, these filters are just fine. However, for a few dollars more, you get into the digitally optimized ones. What's the difference between a digital filter and this besides the name? When you shot film, there's a shiny side and a dull side. Emulsion side, non-emulsion side. And you actually shot against the dull side of the film. It's actually facing the lens. Film didn't care. Boom, in comes the light. Good, I've got it. Unfortunately, digital sensors care. Digital sensors are shiny. If I put a shiny filter in perfect alignment with a shiny sensor, that's like two mirrors. In the right conditions, you can catch ghost reflections going back and forth. It took me 2 years before someone showed me what that actually looked like, so it's very uncommon. But if you'd like to do night photography, you'll see it. Streetlight pinpoints, you'll see the echo, the birthday candles, anything with a pinpoint of light, you'll see that effect. So the digital protection ones are coded to prevent that. And you go to the next grade up, the HDX series. These have some extra coatings that repel dust and moisture, kind of like right next on your car window. Okay, extremely easy to clean off. Permanent marker on these two, it's permanent. Permanent marker on this one for the next 3 days. You can clean it off without any additional. Just give it a good wipe. You might have to use a little bit of sprays. The holy crap, I'm expensive ones are going to be the German ones, B+W, Heliopan, Zeiss, but you're going to be spending like $300 for them. So we sell like one a year. We don't sell. Those of you that like to do landscape photography, I did not bring a polarizer. That's always a cool thing. The same thing. There's a digital version and a high grade version of this. But I did bring 2 versions of a variable neutral density we started carrying. So the standard one, any variable neutral density is typically 1.5 to 6 stops that you can just change. This is actually 1.3 to 8 stops. So if you like doing the silky waterfalls during the day, this is kind of cool. We started getting in the extreme, which starts at 5 stops and goes to 12. So nice, bright, sunny day, and you really want to make those waterfalls nice and silky. There's where you go. It's not quite a solar filter, though. Solar filters are typically 15 or 16 stops. So when the eclipse comes around in a year and a half, you might get away with this, but I'd be careful. I'd look for an actual solar filter. Get to 16 stops. Yes?
Have you noticed the color balance change?
I have not, and the HDX ones I know are kind of coded to prevent that. The standard grade ones, you might. The other thing that you can come across with most neutral density filters is that at some point they can actually wind up in perfect alignment with each other. You can wind up with this weird X pattern going through your photo. as the two linear patterns just kind of perfectly match. The XGX versions have hard stops, so you don't get to that point. Where some of the other ones will just kind of keep free spinning. So this will prevent that effect from happening.
What's the price range on that?
What's that?
Do you see vignetting on those redensity filters?
No. As long as, usually I would not put on more than 2 filters on most lenses. So if you want to do a special effects filter and a polarizer or one of these, you're fine. That also depends on how wide angle the lens that you're putting it on.
I had one that actually did was a slight vignette.
Okay. I will say most 28 to 80, 2875, probably even 2475s or 2470s, you're probably not going to see anything unless you go more than 1 filter. Go to 2 filter, 3 filter, you probably will. If you're using something wider, like a 21 or a 16 on a full frame, which translate that if you're not using a full frame camera, then yes, it kind of depends on how wide you are and how many filters you're going. So it's possible, depends on your lens.
Eric,
Yes,
on the high-end new variable filter, what is the price range of it?
$199 for the standard and $219 for the extreme. So these are also the HDX versions. So. All right, I'm going to skip a few things. I'm not going to worry about those right now. Let's play with some cameras. So I wish I could have brought all the ones I wanted to bring. However, we don't have them. They're extremely hard to get. I don't have a Z9. I don't have a Sony A1. I don't have a Canon R3. I don't have the Pentax K3 III or the Olympus OM1. Unfortunately, supply chain issues, and they're just, I know for Z9s we've had like 40 or 50 of them on order since December. So I did bring a few, and I brought 1 or 2 unique ones that I don't know if people have seen before. I brought the highest grade Canon one that I had, which is the Canon R5. This will do 6K video. This is all the cat's meows of Canon stuff. And if you have traditional mirrored Canon stuff from like a 5D series camera, you can use an adapter and use all your existing lenses. The difference between using an adapted lens versus what I'll call a native lens. Typically, native lenses are going to focus a little faster because you're not going through the added electronics, and your stabilizer is different. If you're using a native lens, this thing has got a 5-axis stabilizer to it. If you use an adapted lens, that cuts it down to 3. Okay. Now, if you have a stabilized lens, let's say I've got an adapted to a Canon 70-200 2.8 IS, or a Tamron 150-600 VR or VC, turn one of those stabilizations off. They will fight each other. There's only one system that has any type of lens compatibility between body and lens stabilization, and it's not Canon. It's not Nikon either, or Sony. It's actually Panasonic. I brought the R10, which is we'll call it the Rebel of mirrorless cameras for Canon. So it's kind of more their baseline. It has a lot of features that someone who's just getting into mirrorless or just getting into photography would get used to, but not the advanced features. It's not weather sealed. Comes with a standard lens. It uses a crop sensor, but still uses the full RF lens mount. So I can put the full frame lenses without any adapter straight on it. You still have the crop factor that any other crop sensor to full frame would have. I brought a Sony A7 Mark IV. If you've been in any of the shops, this guy's been up for maybe a year now. Again, highest level I could grab. I want to say it's 42 meg, but I could be wrong. but you can use all the existing Sony stuff. There are other generic adapters to use other brand lenses. However, if I were to use, let's say, a Metabones adapter and use a Canon lens, now I'm talking someone from Germany trying to talk to someone from Florida with an Italian translator. It might work, it might not work, you know, so be prepared that maybe not all functions are compatible. I brought the only pocket camera that I had. It's really not that pocketable, but it is the FC80 by Panasonic. One heck of a zoom on it. It's like a 20 millimeter wide equivalent to 1200. So nice wide landscape, very long, not as long as the Nikon P9000 or P900 series or P1000, but it's also half the size. So this is a Panasonic. It is light, yeah. So and feel free to come up when I'm done and play with these guys. Mid upper threes, 350, 399. I've got a price sheet here. Rebates kind of come and go, so I brought the price sheet. I can tell you the prices. I don't want this to be, but wait, there's more. But I do have the prices you're going to see. However, since rebates can fluctuate, some of them just ended, some of them are starting up. You know, if you're talking the next probably week or two, prices are still going to be good. Wait till next month, they might fluctuate. I brought a camera that I'm sure not a lot of people have seen. This is Nikon ZFC, which is basically a retro version of their mirrorless camera. So if you're used to shooting old Nikon film cameras or anybody's film cameras, this looks a lot like a Nikon FE, FA, Pentax K1000, Minolta SRT. And if you're going from a film camera to digital for the first time, you go like, what's all this electronics button stuff? I don't know. But you look at this and you're like, I know that. Okay. And that's how a lot of Fujis do it too. Their XT series. We don't have any Fuji at our store, so I didn't have any. But for those people that are still coming from old film manual cameras, they can look at this thing and it's like, I don't even know what LVF button means, what FN2 button means. It's like shutter speed, aperture, ISO, got it, you know, and you're good to go. This is a crop sensor, so any lens you have on it will be magnified by standard such. And can use the adapter to use selected generational Nikon lenses. Any of the current AFPs and AFS lenses are fine. If you get into the older AFD gear drive motors, it'll be manual focus when you use the adapter. And then the last one I brought is a little bit more unique of a full frame mirrorless camera. It's a Panasonic S5. You're in the price range of Canon R6, give or take, right about 2,000. However, this has the guts of almost an R5. This will do 6K video. This will do unlimited video. There's no timer limits on this guy. Okay. This can do a lot that higher end bodies can do. Its drawback though, and every system's got a good point, bad point, is maybe the lens selection. This uses what's called a Leica L mount. Panasonic has about a dozen lenses for this thing. Leica's got maybe half a dozen to a dozen lenses. According to Sigma, by the end of the year, there's going to be about 6 more. But this is the newest lens mount on the market, so your current lens selection is a little limited. However, if video is your priority, Panasonic's going to blow everybody else out of the water. That's not to say Canon or Sony are bad. That'd be 2 excellent secondary choices. But if you were coming in saying, I need a camera that does video, I don't have any previous equipment, or I've got something that's 10, 15 years old, I would take a serious hard look at their stuff. I just bought a Canon mirrorless lens, so if someone wanted to play with the R5, I've got an 85 millimeter. Tamron does make a couple lenses for a Sony E-mount that are full frame. And most people don't think about it because they're looking at their Sony stuff. Tamron makes a 17 to 28 2.8, a 28 to 75 2.8, a 70 to 180 2.8, weird numbers, but there's a reason for those weird numbers. Usually you'll find those 2.8s being a 24 to 70 or a 16. 16 to 35 or a 70 to 200 to 8. The reason why those numbers aren't matching with most other manufacturers is because Sony owns about 15% of Tamron. And there's a no compete clause, which means they can't make the same exact focal lengths as a Sony lens. So slightly different, but yet the same, and probably about half the price. Sharpness wise, I'm going to say flip a coin between Tamron and a manufacturer's glass. In fact, in some cases, Pentax, Tamron makes their lenses. So yes, the lens I have on there is probably a Tamron in disguise. They do a little bit more plastic in the barrel, so physically they're lighter and they are, like I said, less expensive. Probably one of the best warranties for lenses out there, 6 years. Nikon's close at 5. Sigma's probably not far behind at 3. Everybody else is 1. And what's that? Zeiss is 1. Anybody else I'd have to check on. There's some other weird companies like 7 Horizons and Tokina, but I think they're typically the ones. So if you're looking for a alternate to manufacturer's glass, Tamron's nice alternate. Sigma's pretty decent too. I have a preference towards Tamron. I think their in-lens stabilization is probably one of the best ones out there. I brought our, we do rent some Tamron lenses out of the Solon store. This is one of them. This is the 150 to 600. Most manufacturers have something very, very similar. However, this is the G2 version, which is totally compatible with all the adapters that are out there. So if I put this on a FTZ adapter for Nikon or a Canon's adapter, totally compatible. What makes this a little different than some of the other ones the same, the foot's a little different. This actually has an Arca style plate already built into it. So if you've got a tripod that uses an Arca style hole, I don't need to take that plate off the camera. I just slide this thing right on its place. Two, most of these guys, in fact, a lot of the long zoom lenses have a hard lock, a little lock switch. And usually the lowest is zoom. A lot of the all-in ones, 18 to 300, 16 to 400, they have the same thing. Basically what that means is, I'm not going to creep. As you're walking around, this thing's not going to sag down. Now, anywhere else, then I can get the creep on you. However, Tamron's got a soft lock. No, I'm not creeping. So you can tilt the soft lock anywhere you want. And if I tried, I could force it. But it still has that hard lock. So if you like to walk around a bunch before you get in position, and you don't want your lens like creeping all the way out, you can lock it in at any point. Believe me, I've seen it.
When you say it's fully compatible with like the Nikon, the vibration reduction is fully compatible, or you still have to go with one or the other?
If you've got a stabilized body and a stabilized lens, turn one off. Now, depending upon the lens, and what I'm going to say is depending upon the size of the lens. If the lens is 10, 12 inches or smaller, so basically almost any of the size of anything that so we'll say this size or smaller, turn the lens off. Use the body. Okay. Any of the bigger ones, use the lens. And there's a reason for it. When I'm holding the shorter lens, I'm like this, my body basically helps stabilize that, and the lens, the body stabilization is right there. When I take this big lens, my center of gravity is now shifting into that lens, and the in-lens stabilization becomes more effective than back here of the body. So if you've got a physically long lens, Nikon's 200 to 500, Canon's 1 to 4, Sony's 2 to 5, one of these from whoever, use the lens stabilization in your big boys, use the body stabilization in a physically smaller lens. Personal preference. This is my crossbody strap, it's Black Rabbit. I've had it for several years. The only reason why I took it off is because I had to put my grip on. This is actually my stuff right here, so you can see that I have a memory card holder for all my memory cards. I've got a cleaning kit, which includes sensor swabs, cleaning cloth, both lens, kind of stays in my bag. Now, I typically have 2 bags. My full kit bag, which is my wandered backpack right here. And if you were here early, you saw it all kind of kitted together. But I also have my day bag. My day bag is basically that body, 1 lens, no flash, no grip. So when I commute from Medina to Solon, if I see a cool sunset, if I see a car wreck, I can grab it, point it out the window, go bang, bang, bang as I'm driving by. Figure if I can't do it with either a 24-72-8 or I've got a 31mm kind of slightly wide lens, I don't need to worry about it. But that's the bag I carry with me. It's a small little canvas bag, but for my full kit, it's typically in that wandered bag. And then when I'm here in 3 weeks, I will talk about some of the differences between bags and tripods. And I think that's it. Oh, I did bring Godox flash. Manufacturers have their own flashes. Godox is a nice, budget-friendly alternate that can still pack a punch. We've carried several brands throughout the years. Godox kind of designed this after ProPhotos A1 flashes. ProPhotos A1 flashes are like, here. This is a nice mid-level, but it does extremely well. Has a circular head, which means it's going to give you the look of a standard studio strobe rather than a square standard flash head. And uses a rechargeable battery pack rather than AA. This guy can push out 400 full blast flashes between charges. Doesn't necessarily sound like a lot, but how often do you fire full blast flashes? If you're in TTL mode, maybe you're firing 50, 60%. You're going to clear 800 to 1,000 shots. If I'm going boom to here, it's firing really weak. The only time I'm firing full blast is when I'm trying to clear 30, 40 feet. And with a recycle rate of about 2 seconds. So they can keep that up pretty well. It does use a magnetic modifier, so if you get ProPhoto or Westcott's magnetic modifiers for their circle head flashes, you can get domes, you can get diffusers, grids, snoats, gels, all sorts of accessories for this. If you have a square head flash like I have, you can get Magmod. Basically, that's a rubber wraparound. And then the other piece is just magnetized right on. I can use a dome, I can use a grid, I can grab their gels, I can snap it into their soft boxes. It just clicks on, clicks off, real quick and easy. Flash modifiers seem to change about every 3-4 years. I mean, over the years we've had Stoffen Omni bounces, we've had Rogue Flash benders, we've had a couple other ones that I'm drawing a blank on. This is cool. Okay. My kit is a Pentax K1. They're full frame, similar to a 5D Mark IV, Nikon D850 series, completely weather sealed, like 80 some odd points of weather sealing. There are videos on YouTube of people burying their Pentax cameras in sand, taking it out, taking it to a shower and rinsing it off. A shower is a torrential downpour. I had my K3, the one before this, out when Hurricane Sandy was crashing waves at Edgewater, and my one weather sealed ones. The ones I wanted to use my fisheye. It wasn't weather sealed. I would have destroyed that ones. And there's video on YouTube to prove it. Where every other system has good points and bad points, same thing with Pentax. They're okay at sports, they're okay at video. These guys are some of the most rugged cameras that are out there. So their back screen, only on the K1 and K1 Mark II, kind of does some weird things. So if you're doing copy work, you can do that. If I'm doing astro, I can do that. I'm trying to shoot slightly angled, I can do that. I'm going to grab the cage here. I would rip a Nikon or a Canon's one off if I did that. 4 metal joints connected at metal joints. It has built-in astro tracer, so astrophotography. And That's it. Any other questions? Yes?
So do you have any idea, or have you heard any rumors on when Sigma or Tamron are coming out with RF lenses?
I have not heard anything on RF. Tamron, like within the past day or two, announced their first Z lens coming for Nikon. So it wouldn't surprise me if the RF lenses aren't far behind. The reason why, I don't know about Sigma, but the reason why Tamron hasn't come up with any yet is if everything's the same as it was a couple of years ago, their production lines are pretty much at full capacity. In order for them to make a new lens, they have to drop one. And in order for them to make the probably 8 or 9 lenses for Sony that are out there, they dropped pretty much their entire Pentax line, which is what I showed. And they dropped their primes that they had. They had a 35, a 45, and an 85 millimeter. They dropped those so they can make the Sony and retool them, and that's why we're seeing a Z start to appear, because they've retooled the lines that were doing something else. So wouldn't surprise me that they might fade away some of the maybe not so popular EF mount and replace it with an RF, like maybe the 10 to 24, maybe the 18 to 400 might fade away when it's finally outlived its life and get replaced with an RF. But at the moment, the only one I've heard of is the one for Z. It's a 70 to 300, 4 to 5.6 or 4 to 6.3. It's kind of more your standard. Oh, I think it's scratch on the lens. If it's a filter, replace the filter. If it's in the lens itself, you'd have to get someone to like either regrind it, which could be expensive, or you have to have someone replace it. And replacing camera optics, just like one of the elements, is not, it's not a cheap option. So I might consider, depending upon the camera, if it's like a $300 camera or a $300 lens, just replace it. If it's like a $5,000 lens, I might spend $500 or $600 getting a new optic camera. For Sony? I don't remember seeing a fisheye lens for Sony. Oh, fast lens. Oh, fixed lens. For depends upon what you want. I mean, at our store we've got the 50 millimeter 1.8, but because certain lenses are limited, I don't see all the stuff that all the other stores currently have. So the Cleveland store or the Chicago store, the Cincinnati store, the big stores might get some of the more unique lenses before I even know they exist. What's that? Maybe if you know what you're looking for. The nice thing is, no matter where you go, most of these manufacturers are all the same price from any authorized reseller. We put a little asterisk. The problem is, no matter where you go, they're the same price. Okay. That asterisk, there are, if you see a price that's too good to be true, it usually is. Okay. If it's $1 or $2 or $5 difference, okay, you're probably fine. If it's a $300 difference, then you got to dig a little bit further into the description, and is it used? Is it refurbished? Is it a demo? Or is it what they call gray market? And gray market basically means it is not designed for sale within the United States. And if you get a gray market piece, yeah, you might save $300, $400, however, realize that your warranty is null and void and does not exist. Nikon will not touch, at any cost, a gray market product. Canon will not touch a gray market product. Tamron will not touch a gray market product. Other companies might, but they will charge you. Your warranty is invalid. So, nice thing is, companies control those prices. Bad thing is, companies control those prices. Don't forget to put your ticket in the thing that you want. There's Gary Fung Light Dome, there's 2 Pentax t-shirts, cleaning class, there's 5 lots. Throw your ticket in, and I'm gonna assume the judges are ready. And
So you do this.
One of us will do the readings, read the names. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah. Either one of it. It's up to him.
Do you do this for every Zoom presentation?
No, I saw that he wasn't on camera, so I figured I'd come over and just follow him along. So no, I just jumped in because they needed it. The Zoom presentations, we don't use this. He's got a little camera on the computer up there, a little webcam. This is for exactly that. You saw Eric's face in the little corner. So we do use it for some things, but for Zoom we don't. If we had
So what were you doing?
all I was doing was panning as he would walk around. I just follow him here in the.
For Zoom though? For the Zoom presentation?
No, the Zoom presentations, typically he's got a little webcam on the computer and we sit up there. And, the only one that is on camera is whoever's behind the computer. So you just sit there like you're doing it at home. If you got a webcam at home and you do Zoom from home, it's just showing you and then you get added to the little grid of
So
faces.
did this record something? Did you record something?
We use something called OBS, and OBS will take the signal from this camera and the signal from the computer or whatever and blend it together, and that's what gets broadcast out. It's not Zoom, it's basically OBS stands for, I can't remember, something, broadcasting system or something. It's a piece of software we use to control that kind of stuff.
Cameron just gave up. Fearless ones.
I'm gonna go dump this in the buckets up there.
Yeah, so, I'll give you a ribbon.
And I'm not surprised.
And,
I've been there and there's one ticket.
Richard. Okay, well, that's, okay, no problem. They have to do, like, people like to socialize a little bit. Exactly. Okay.
basically,
Let people. We weren't able to photocopy the on the prints. Those would be exactly. Instead of sitting right in this one, I got you sitting this way. Higher resolution. I just sit here, see the screen, see the and I still got to and Rich moved right. David's actual chairman is not. No, you got. Okay, well, that's between you two as far as.
Is there a way, Mike, that you could fix folder and light? Well, so like I put everything in. So when I open up Lightroom, I'd like to pictures rather than having to see my users, Gary.
Yeah, you should. I'll describe this. In other words, you want that to be your default.
Yeah, well, just,
Up on the, if you look up on the top, you can specify the sort of the default.
okay, I'll go with you. I thought I did.
Are you signed up for the Lightning
I really enjoyed it. I love it. And I like the way it runs everything. And I feel it's like I can go through what I do before the class and I always go through it. So I'm able to do it.
Some of the other instructors don't put
I know,
numbers and it drives me crazy.
And the other thing is they don't do the right, like, again, this year I do, you show the picture.
Yeah.
Oh, let's go over here. It's like, but I mean, from an instruction standpoint, later on, because you don't, Jill,
Nice to meet you.
so what I do is it's like I print them all out, make them you're able to use them. Sensors.
It's all making me the dog. But I went to check on, so it's just like, I should just, but I wanted my water.
Yeah.
She's a, not she's a.
We have there's the flower club that we have a competition every year that we kind of judge for. And Bill brought his dog. It was a puppy, it was a rescue dog.
Yeah, we have.
He brought it to the meeting. This dog is one of the most laid back dogs I've ever seen.
You should have seen him.
Oh, yeah, we just walked.
Traveler, you wouldn't even know he was here.
Yeah, you would just, in fact, he would be happier. if
We
you
brought,
didn't know
we
that he
brought
was
Gracie
there.
in here.
She did everything touch and right, like, right now.
Well, it's puppies for you.
Yeah, she's.
Do you want me to read or? I don't care.
Yeah, I'm gonna read, but could you also please copy me for me? I must show me where the copier is and I'll do it. Because I've never done that. I've never.
Okay, well, I brought this in for us.
You did a nice thing. I said I picked up wood last time, not too long. Yeah. I used to be downtown. Manager of a sewing store, retired. So I'm the manager? I'm not sure if he's the manager. What's the manager at downtown also got, so I'm not sure if he's gonna step up or not. I think.
It's in the reading. And if they get mine, then we're good to go. You're gonna be my friend, and take the other person.
Okay, we're going to be getting underway here. Get back lights down.
I don't see.
Okay, will everyone take their seats? And yes. A bit more light over there. Nice job. Okay, we'll get underway. We had a little problem with our digital camera tonight, so we're trying something a bit different so we can project the images. We're just going to do the camera here on the screen. And tonight is a black and white competition. And we are, of course, as we always are, indebted to our judges. And for our three judges tonight, I'm going to have them just introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about themselves. Herb, you want to start off?
Hi. For the two of you who don't know me, I'm Herb Asherman. And I would like to thank the CPS team for inviting me back. It's always a surprise because you never know. And I'm really appreciative to be here. And I just want to comment publicly that I was very touched to hear that Rob Eric passed. He and I were friendly for decades, and he was a absolutely marvelous individual. I'm just so sorry to hear that the cancer caught up to him. I want to take a minute to say that I am the founding director of the Cleveland Photographic Workshop, which is the sponsor of the Cleveland Photo Fest. And this year, the Cleveland Photo Fest is sponsoring an open exhibition entitled 1 Million Photos. Our intention was on the 16th of November, when we opened the show, to have on the walls of the Bostic Art Initiative downtown at 27th and Prospect over 1 million photographs. What we will have are 1,000 by local high school students, 1,000 from local college students, and at the minute, sadly, only 100,000 images, which will be printed and paneled to the walls. So there is still time for those of you who have massive bodies of work to put them on a jump drive, get them to me, and we will have them printed and mounted. Yes, they're going to be the size of my thumb, thumbnail prints, but we intend to cover the walls. And fortunately, I have very strange friends in very strange places, and one of them showed up the other day, and he says, "Here," and he hands me those little jump thingy drives for your computer with pictures on it. And I said, "What is it?" He says, I want to contribute to the exhibition." And I said, "That's great. How many you got?" He said, 60,000. So no number is too big or too small. 1millionphotos.org, I believe, is the website. You can upload directly from there, or you can contact me if you have large bodies of work, which we would love to have. We're still collecting them through October 1st, at which point it will take literally 6 weeks to get this stuff printed and hung on the wall. So you're all invited to participate, you're all invited to the opening, and I hope that you will contribute mightily. Yes, sir.
Did you say your name again?
Herb Asherman, Ascherman. She's one of the two that obviously didn't know. Pleasure. Thank you for being here. And again, I'm always surprised they invite me back, but this is fabulous. I know it's late. We'll get going in a minute.
My name is Walter Grossman. I'm no stranger to CPS. I was a member of CPS 45, 50 years ago. I've been back many times for classes and judging and whatnot. So I've been around photography for a long time. I've exhibited all over. And was on the faculty at Wayne Community College for a number of years. So, hello again.
Hello, everyone. I am John Rivera Resto. I am an artist. By that I mean mostly a painter. Sometimes I'm a lecturer on composition and things like that. And for the last 3 years, I've been doing theater with the Latinos Theater in Cleveland, producing, directing, writing, that kind of thing. And I am delighted to be here. I come here to steal my nerves. It can be very nerve-wracking to be a judge through the time, but I do enjoy it. I'm going to leave with just giving you an invitation a year in advance. And around this time next year, I'm probably going to be producing an adaptation of Shakespeare. It's going to be called Tropical Macbeth. Okay, it'll be in the 1930s. Some of the Rumba, trust me, you're going to love it. And that's going to be one of the milestones. The other one is I'm going to be celebrating my 65th birthday, and it'll be a blast. Hope to see you all. You will all get discounts.
Did everybody hear?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. This is a good image. Composition is okay. Impact could have had a little more impact. And impact with a black and white image really comes with a range of tones. This image is a little on the flat side. Compositionally, I'd like to see a little bit more space above the bayonet. But it's a decent image. But it lacks a little. It lacks a little impact. It's a little bit flat.
The image is called Civil War Rifleman by Dave Korosek, 20 points.
The problem with 90% of the black and white pictures that we saw today is contrast. When you're working with digital contrast is almost always a stop to 2 stops below what it should be, and I'm coming from a black and white film background. I still use that camera that's plugged in on the corner over there, that big 8x10. So the composition is nice, the line is nice, the idea is nice, but the printing is horribly flat. You've got to look at these prints, take them into daylight, look at them again, and then go back to the computer and make another print that looks a lot more contrasty than what you would normally think it should be.
The image is called Yesterday and Today by Bob Kowaleski, 22 points.
Most people that I've noticed in photography, they start with black and they start with color. Like, oh, the month. There it is. Let me repeat myself. Most people I notice, they begin shooting in color, and then they make a picture black and white, and there's some issues with it. In this particular one, I don't see the problem. I just wanted to mention it because it's something I noticed a lot, and I'll come to that later. Now, a good black and white picture has to give you contrast, shape, pattern, tone, and those are the things you look at. On top of that, you need a really good composition. Here we have that knotted rope, which create this kind of abstract shapes and patterns, which are really, really interesting. And yet there's this slight variation between the rope and the background to the one that is being the center of attention. I think that if I wanted to bring out more this nice shape here, which is really what is capturing our eye there, I would just do exactly what Joshua just said, which is you have to bring out that contrast. Okay, it creates depth, it creates separation, it brings it out, and it makes it, let's just say the word 3D. It makes it look more 3D, and that's one thing that you can really achieve in black and white if you play with the tones and the contrast.
The image is called Twisted by Dennis Wirt, 25 points, second place.
Like you say, it looks better projected there than on the image. Okay, that because why? Because the visor, the viewer has lights behind it, so it tends to correct the imbalance.
This image has decent impact. There's strong whites and there's strong blacks. Now, based on what the other two judges have said, with black and white photography, we have to express ourselves in terms of shades of gray, black, and white. Some of the most critical tonalities in the black and white image are the textured whites and textured blacks.
Explain that.
Well, textured blacks are blacks that show good texture. Detail, yeah. And the same with whites. If you have whites with no texture, it's kind of like a white hole. The same with the black. So you got to watch out for that. The images that have the most impact in black and white have a very good tonal range from black to white. But if the blacks are fairly good size, if they're large, they really need to have detail. They have an image with a black hole, especially with a large area, is very distracting. Now here, the black holes under the bridge, that's not a problem. In an image like this, that's not a problem. As you get towards the lower corners, we could stand a little more texture, especially on the left side. The composition I thought was very good. The texture of the water, I think, is great, and the texture in the trees, I think, is very good. So this image is very strong. I think a little more concentration, especially towards the left side in the dark areas, I think would convert this from a good image to a very good image. And I would hope that the photographer would continue to work with this. And based on what Herb said initially, images evolve. The first time you print an image and it looks good, okay, you pin it up and you look at it for a few days or a week or a couple of weeks, and then you decide, well, hey, what if I did this? Would that enhance it? So you give it a try and it enhances it. So images over a period of time evolve and they get better and better. And if you have a decent image, that's something that I think you should bear in mind. And just work on these images until really there's nothing more that you can do.
The image is called Plantation Bridge by Rich Foley, 24 points, third place.
What it's got going for it is the fact that it's in a white mat. Black mats detract from black and white photography. It makes the image look darker. It makes the image look flatter. It does not give you the ability to see the entire image when you're looking at it because your eye is so distracted by the mat that's around the picture. Your eye doesn't know where to start and your eye doesn't know where to stop looking. If you're ever going to submit to a competition, if you're ever going to hang in a gallery, a white mat is 100% necessity. Black mats are cutesy, and your framer is going to say, "Oh, it looks so much better this way," but he's not entering the print and he's not signing it. So, as I have been known to say in the past, if you're going to be serious about photography, be more serious about your presentation. Number one. Number two. The difference between black and white and color is that color gives you information, which black and white does not. If you walked outside all of a sudden and you had a purple sky and yellow grass and orange trees, either you're smoking some really good shit or there's a real problem. When you look at a black and white picture, there is nothing on that page but a graphic that goes from black to white. And you view it intellectually, organize it intellectually, and respond emotionally. Black and white requires emotional response. So, case in point, my response is, I don't like spiders, but my other objection is, it's a color picture converted to black and white, which doesn't belong in black and white. It doesn't have that emotional content to it. It doesn't have the print is flat. It doesn't have the punch, and it's merely an exercise on the photographer's perspective as to how well he can make or she can make a print in black and white. But I don't think it's successful as an image because it is a color image. You need that information in order to respond emotionally.
The image is called Curly Hair Tarantula by Vicky Wirt, 20 points.
Well, judging, I asked the question if this was a black and white competition or it was a monochromatic. Black and white is monochromatic, but not all monochromatics are black and white. They will have nuances of color in this particular case. A very pleasant one, I might add to it. Going back on the color, I do want to say this. You can take the exactly same photo. You can put the camera on tripod, shoot the picture in color, and you compose it well and shoot it again in black and white, trust me, it might look good, the composition, but the chances are the composition will not look the same. For example, if I have two players and one is dressed in red, and that is your focal in the picture, by the time it goes to black and white, maybe the intensity of that red, the tone will be the same as the one in yellow, and that changes. That is not the case in this picture, however. We noticed that the players, the contrast of it emphasizes more the shape. It's darker than the background. They do stand out. It creates a sort of focal length. Also, notice how much softer the tonal value is in those signs on the back. Okay, so they tend to frame the picture a lot better because the subject matter in this case was nice and crisp. It's a nice action picture. It's interesting to look at, and the background is so interesting without distracting. And I think this is one of the more successful ones I see.
The image is called He's Out by Eric Withington, 21 points.
Very nice composition. It's the obligation of the photographer to direct the viewer's eye. And I think this image does that very well. It lacks a little bit of impact. It's a little bit flat. And here again, I think this image has enough quality that it could be improved. Contrast would need to be adjusted, but you got to watch out for the losing texture and all that black. So it's a good image. I think it's captured well, and I would recommend to the photographer to keep working because this has the potential of becoming a very good image.
The image is called Crocuses by Mike Kopkis, 25 points, second place.
Well, I stopped when I looked at this, and I've seen eagles in flight and I've seen oceans, but I've never seen an eagle over an ocean. So I assumed it was photoshopped. Please correct me if I'm wrong. This is a real shot? Well, I hope so, because I gave it a 9, hoping that it was a real shot, although being from Cleveland, never seeing anything like an Alaskan eagle, I thought it was magnificent. I thought it was beautifully done. I'm not going to quibble about dark areas or light areas. It's ridiculous. It's just an absolutely phenomenal grab shot. Obviously, you were tracking him, I would assume, and is one of the finest images I saw tonight. So my congratulations. You're welcome.
I thought the fact that the wind is touching the sun, filtering through, is quite a nice touch.
The image is called Sunset Vigilance by Bob Kowaleski, 24 points, third place.
Obviously, my fellow judges did not share my complete affection with that image.
This is a lovely image. Images, especially with people, the subject of the what we have here is a very simple background on the picture, so all our eye is concentrating on the subject itself. It's nicely focused, but you see different textures, which is one of the things that black and white does beautifully. It's got a nice tonal range, but this is not, it's on the low key. Low key meaning that you don't see any strong whites. I mean, notice the map, how white that is. And then look at the picture itself. I know in the monitor there you see more whites than we actually see in the photograph here. It's more in order to keep, but everything is well balanced to the point that I can see the total range of grays in most about everything, especially in some of those shadows. My only quibble would be, I just would like the camera to have pulled back a little more. Okay. But other than that, I really enjoyed this picture. I think it was very well done.
And what would take this, speaking as a portrait photographer, from a good portrait to a fabulous portrait would be to have him looking dead onto the camera. The fact that he's looking off the side draws your eye away from it. It says, this is a posed picture. I'll stand here holding my rifle and I'll pose for you. But when you make eye contact, then you make drama and you make emotion.
Sure.
The image is called Old Rebel by Dave Korosek, 25 points, second place.
Yes, yeah, this is a very good capture. The tonalities are good. I'm gonna question the composition a little bit. And there's another one later on that we can make a similar comment. The background the amount of background above the rail detracts from the image. The photographer wants to keep the viewer's eye on the action. The background detracts because your eye kind of wants to go to see who's sitting in the stand. If this were composed to include a little bit more foreground on the bottom, that would help. And being as it is, darkening the background a little bit so you know there's people, but not enough that the viewer's eye will look at the people and be taken away from the players.
I also want to comment that if you're going to enter a competition size print. You can't see, we had to hold this up literally in front of us in order to see the details. Printed 11 by 14, printed 16 by 20, but printed big enough for a judge to be able to view it.
Was this a color image turned to black and white? Okay, now keep this in mind, people. I strongly suggest that you put a filter on your camera to black colors. You can actually see it in black and white before you shoot it. Okay, I'm sure this one with a shirt in color will pop out and separate from the background, but not in black and white. Or wear some dark lenses and look. That's another way to sheet. Okay, to be able to get those tonal qualities and better judge a picture that's in color, because it's going to print differently.
The image is called Swing by Eric Withington, 22 points.
Eyes straight to the camera, strong, dramatic. It's too flat. It needs more punch because that Ajit, whatever it is white and not gray. But it's in a very dramatic and very impactful image, which is the way portraiture should be.
The image is called The Watcher by Bill Keaton, 24 points, third place.
Black and white actually lends itself well to architectural photography. Again, one of the things you see here is you see the multiple arches as you go through it and the light the way it is. And black and white makes your eye focus without distractions in those elements. I think that by looking at the amount of sun in that picture, it feels flat in the print. Okay, I would have just punched those highlights just a little more, put a little more depth to it. It's beautifully framed, it's nicely framed, though I would have loved to see just a tad more in the framing at the bottom to give it a little more balance. The figure on the back adds scale to it because you can compare the lady moving. But for me, I think it's a very good picture. I can see the detail, I can see the range, but I would have punched the contrast just a bit more to give it more depth.
I would agree, but of all the black and white we saw, this one has the broadest and most even range of contrast and tonality.
Yeah,
So
it's
it's
very
really beautifully done.
Yes,
beautifully done.
but the thing that disturbed me a little bit about it, I mentioned before, textured whites and solid whites. If on the right side of that corridor, if those whites were burned down just a little bit,
You said functional. I agree with you.
No, I would heighten them. There's certain, well, it's relatable, you know, you would add more drama, let's put it that way, drama, when you have that. In this particular case, because there's not a lot of texture on those pillars,
well, we don't know.
okay? Well, I know, because I've been there. But the point, I guess what I'm trying to say is, yeah, I see your point. But you can also add contrast by deepening your darks, maintaining your whites. You can go all the way around.
You wouldn't want to texture in those blacks. So you wouldn't want to lose that color. Making it black and darker.
Well, no,
You know,
they're
the only really,
It's splitting hairs.
has,
It's a gorgeous picture. Let's
it's a
go with
gorgeous
that.
picture, but as I've said many times, you don't know until you try it. But if you tried it, you compare the two and you see which is more effective.
Oh, yeah, but nowadays it's very easy to go all around. A computer can just do the inside, on the outside. You guys see the same?
Well, yeah, digitally you can do that.
Yeah, you can do it easily. Or the old-fashioned way, just dust, burn, and dust, and
That's how we do.
yeah, and that's requires more skill, but you end up with the same result. So I see both points there.
Yeah, there's a lot of these things, it's easy to say, but until you actually do it and make a comparison, you don't know.
But you also have to take into account, I'll close this argument out, the photographer's own vision of what this should be. And if the photographer decided that that highlight is okay, a little bit hot, so be it. And then pass the print and move on.
The image is called Quranic School, Morocco by Dave Saborik, 23 points.
Okay, this, I like the composition on this, the lighting, I think is very good. But, as I said before, you gotta watch out for, blacks with no texture. Now, there's a lot of black in this image. The black on the top is textureless, but that's okay. The black at the bottom of the basket is okay. It'd be nice if we had a little bit of texture there, but it's okay. But in the center, the loss of detail, especially on that apple inside the basket, that's a little bothersome. And inside the basket, the black at the top inside the basket, a little bit too much. So, in my opinion, if we could show some more texture there, I think it would be a stronger image.
The image is called Basket of Apples by Mike Kopkis, 23 points.
How will you add lights to it? Simple.
Well, put a reflector.
Put a reflector on it.
Either that
Thin it on the line.
Either that or, dodging.
Put a mirror reflector on it.
Well, they are.
Yeah.
But see.
Can you hear him?
Yes.
You'd have to be able to take a spot reading.
No, you cracked it, open it up. All right, on this one, I like the idea It's a gorgeous, very sharp, contrasty, needs a little more contrast, but a very sharp, very elegant picture, but you cut off so much of it on the right, and particularly that one blossom on the bottom, that it's unbalanced. My eye keeps following, your eye goes to the lightest part of the photograph first. That's the number one rule in all photography and in all prints. You see the brightest part of the image. So I see those textured leaves on the right, and my eye goes straight off the page because, goes straight off the page, that's good. It goes straight off the page over here and up on top because you're taken by this line down here at the bottom and swept up. So I would suggest that if you still have the flower, it's superb. Compositionally, you cut half the image off, which makes it very distracting.
The image is called Sunflower from the Side by Keyword, 23 points.
We have an image here that depends mostly on pattern and line. To bring attention or try to bring interest. If I'm doing something like this, I'm going to go right to it. I don't need the portion at the top. It, to me, does nothing in the sense of composition. My eye is here. And when you get something like this and you're working with the texture, and you're working with some abstract pattern, why not experiment and go full in with the abstraction of it, okay? And trying to play with the contrast to bring out those textures, okay? I think that will make the image a little more interesting. I see the way it's going, I see the composition, I see the point of view. It goes all over there, but what is the main frame for me is this area that I find a lot more interesting than pulling my eye over there. For me, there's a weak point of pulling my eye toward the end, even though it's there.
The image is called Dry as a Bone by Bill Keaton, 22 points.
It's flat. Oh, sorry, you're.
Yeah, it is flat. It is flat. Interesting composition though, there's a lot of geometry there. But I think here again, if you look at this a little bit, and expand the tonalities. It's a dramatic sky, but it's not presented all that within its drama. The foreground is bland. There's a lot that can be done with this to really enhance it. The great textures in the lower right, in the architecture, but overall it just lacks impact. I think there's enough there that this image could be improved.
The image is called Golden Gate Bridge by Gary Bloom, 22 points.
When I first saw this, the first image that popped into my mind was an ice skater slamming on the skates, popping everything up. It's a great idea. I don't understand the band across the gray band across his chest as to what that is or how it got there or where the lighting didn't come from. But as far as an action shot, whoever conceived it and organized it and put it together did a fabulous job.
The image is called Rain or Shine, I'm Feeling Fine by Susan Vestal, 24 points, third place.
I enjoyed this image a lot in the sense that I got a lot of information. It's got that good tonal range. In contrast, I see the texture. It's got good shapes that accentuate the composition in both ways. So I thought it was very crisp. Okay, and shot in a way that is interesting. It's going to be shot in many ways. I think the sun was just pretty good. Probably use a filter to get the sky out. That doesn't interfere with that main building. Notice that all the main light is concentrated on that building with a window. Okay, it's not a square building. It's got an interesting shape that I think complements the composition, and it leads our eye right to it. I thought it was a very good picture.
If you look at the monitor, you're looking at a much higher contrast image than we're looking at as the print. It needs, to my eye, it's too much on the flat side and needs more of the punch side, but also holding in the shadow detail, the highlight detail, which it has up there. So that's a real good example of what Grossman here thinks the print should look like. But you've got a practical exhibition where you can see what we're talking about when we say flat and when we say lack of contrast as projected in terms of giving it more punch and more emotion. And that's what I was looking at.
Yeah.
I found the picture to be a very emotional image. It touched me. It was very soft, very delicate. But as far as the print, not quite to the way it's on the monitor, but closer to it than what's here on the print.
There's something very practical that happens to me that we get photographs that are perfect on the monitor. We see them, when they come to print, they come flat. So I got into the practice of putting everything on one F or two f-stops lighter, just so when they print, they kind of sort of get to the sweet spot. Because now they just come out flat.
The image is called French Village by Dennis Wirt, 26 points, first place.
Now I'm disappointed because I thought it was Italian. Huh.
No,
Take a point.
you can tell them out.
Again, I go to this, if you're going to present it to me, give it to me in a size that I can relate to, and give it to me in a white mat. It would look so much better, larger and clearer, meaning with a white border around it that would complement the simple tones of the picture. As far as the portrait goes, if you knew this person and you created this, it was a very intimate moment of a collaboration. And I never use the word model. I use the word collaboration. Because without what's in front of the camera, I, who am behind the camera, have nothing to work on or nothing to work with. So I thought it was a very effective moment that they had created between them, and I think it's got enough emotion to carry it as a legitimate portrait.
The image is called Summer Feeling by Dan Rowland, 25 points, second place.
To me, this is a superb example of what black and white does so well. Here, first of all, is the viewpoint in which shapes were used to create a very dynamic composition. In addition to the shapes, there's the textures, there's the use of shadow. Shadows are so important, they kind of tend to tie all the elements together, and they're here more subtle, but they work very, very well. The contrast, the windows being seen through and yet not being washed out, but I can still see the details outside, works very well. I think this, to me, is a fantastic picture, very theatrical, it has a lot of drama, has mystery. And when there's some kind of mystery on what's happening here, well, there's a story, and that's what creates the drama. So that's why I enjoy this picture so much.
The image is...
I wanted to make a comment. I mentioned before the importance of maintaining texture in the blacks and the whites. If you can imagine this picture, there's a lot of blacks. The blacks have very rich texture. If you could imagine the same picture where the blacks have no texture, it would just ruin everything. The textures here in the blacks and the whites are great. This is really an impressive. A lot of geometry, almost an abstraction, if you want to, but this is really good.
You can see it better in the monitor.
The monitor shows you.
The image is called Rookery Stairway by Jackie Sayeski, 26 points first place.
Mine?
No, that was his.
Yeah, this is a very good image. It's got very nice tonalities, a lot of texture in the whites. The black background, I mean, here's a instance where blacks with no texture is good. So you're concentrating on the actual image of you can think it's kept very well.
The image is called A Moth and a Flower by Belinda Prince, 23 points.
Having been to 1,749 weddings, bar mitzvahs, and doggy birthday parties, no lie, no, the title of my autobiography, Made in Heaven, Weddings from Hell. Someday I'm gonna write it. It's a cute moment, it's a cute candid, it's not a competition style photograph, and it's printed very, very flat and very dark and very gray. If you're gonna do something like this, put punch in it that from which people can derive an emotional response. And again, it'll look a lot better with a white man.
The image is called Can I Have a Turn by Fran Marino, 22 points.
You have an interesting subject. She's looking at you, wrapping some kind of gauze and in a nice pose, and then it creates some kind of mirror image. I'm going to start with composition. To me, there's two pet peeves. One of them is composition. The second one is if you manipulated it, I don't want to know you did it. Okay. It provides the reflection and the subject are. There's a dividing line that's right in the middle. Okay, so you create a mirror image, which is not that interesting. If, for example, you would lower that joint a little lower, then you have more weight to the bottom, because we tend to associate that with weight, and I think would even highlight more the figure itself and the light colors. Having said that, I do think it's an interesting pose. I would love to see this, maybe the contrast. I know it's difficult with white to heighten the contrast and lose some tonality, but get a little more onto that. I think it's a very good try, and I will play more with the composition. Or, if I were doing in a painting, I would just put a soft glow spot.
And if you're going to use a reflection, the reflection is too dark in this image. It doesn't give her the balance tonally that you really want in a gorgeous portrait. I'm also disturbed by the chaos of the wrapping around her feet. I don't understand why it's not smoother or cleaner.
The image is called Mommy, although it might be Mummy, but I assume it's
I
Mommy.
think it's funny.
Well, it's what's on the paper is Mommy, so I don't know what's behind the image. It's by Serena Cernik, 22 points.
This is obviously a character study. I think if this were, we need more drama here. We need a little bit more weight in the face.
Much more can you ask for?
Well, you got a lot of texture, but here again, I'd like to see this printed darker. Because I think if it were printed darker, it would look better, if you want. Really do. The halo in the background, I don't think does a whole lot for the image. It's a very tight image, texture is very good. But, to me, I've seen a lot of highly textured faces to the images, and I think this needs a little bit more drama. I mean,
What do you mean by drama? You mean punch? You mean
Well,
contrast? Depth?
I would like to see the textures accentuated.
Some more contrast.
For instance, well, I'd like to see it printed a little bit better. See if that did the trick.
It won't.
Maybe it won't. Now, his right temple, I think if that were darker,
You need that to give it depth.
it still has a highlight. That's a little bit stuck.
As far as the halo, I agree with you. That's just poor
Manipulation.
Thank you. That's just poor manipulation. And it shouldn't look like that. But I think the image has enough punch the way it is.
The image is called Staff Sergeant Paul by Dave Saborik, 24 points, third place.
Okay, continuing here with the portraits.
I think it's me.
Oh, it's you, that's true.
Continuing here with the portrait. He was about to say that it's marvelous, that it's got a great tonal range, that it's beautifully composed, that it's got fabulous depth of field, and that my only minute ridiculous criticism would be that all that stuff hanging on the right is just distracting and chaotic, but the image and of the man and the strength that he shows certainly carries that over to a point of that's not even worth discussing or bringing in. Very powerful, very dramatic, very direct, very well done.
Beautifully. The image of the gentleman mirroring
Yeah.
the image of the Indian just adds so much more to it.
Nice work.
The image is called Self-Portrait by Gary Bloom, 26 points, first place.
Gary Bloom here? Oh, that's you. I recognize you without the hand.
Doesn't look anything like it. Wait, I want to change my grade up there. Here's-
God's name. We're continuing with portraits. Here, there's one thing that I found I like to pose. It's a little tight. But if it's distracting the fact that she's not looking at me in this particular case. Okay, this is one in which the subject is distracted by something, so I'm going to be distracted by something. It's a nice enough pose to look straight at me. I think would maybe punch up the contrast a little more to get a tonal range a little stronger. I think the image can take it. I didn't look much at the background. I thought the image was defined enough, except that the cropping is not the best. Okay. I would have framed it maybe a little more, have her looked at me. She's really interesting. When you got a person posing, you can actually move the camera around a little bit until you find that perfect one, or take several pictures of it. Do it. Don't forget the little headroom. Don't forget the etc. What's there. And remember, the background is going to distract from the subject. anything on the back, you see that pointed arch on the background? Distracts from the pose itself. So those little details that they're easily to correct once you know what to look for and keep doing it.
I spent 20 marvelous years as the portrait photographer of the Cleveland Orchestra, all in black and white. And I will tell you that among many of the lessons I learned from people who are world-class musicians is that music is emotional, and there is no emotion in her face. If you're going to play an instrument, if you're going to play in an orchestra, and you see these people, whether you're sitting live or watching TV, every single one of them is engaged and involved. So here, you've got a nice-looking girl, and she's holding her instrument correctly, and she's being distracted off, and there's absolutely zero emotion between her and the instrument that she's playing. So if you're going to photograph musicians, and this will come up, there's another one of a guitar player. Unless there is a rapport between the player and the instrument, I would say, why bother? You've got to show emotion.
The image is called Music is My Escape by Susan Bestel, 23 points.
Well, this has some nice tonalities, but this kind of reminded me of an advertisement for a necklace. I would like to see the face. That wouldn't maybe would sell the necklace. Now, if this is attempt at a portrait, I would like to see the face. What's there is fine. I'm not going to criticize. A little bit flat, but that's okay. For something like this, it's soft. The lighting is soft. But what does the photographer want me to look at?
Good question. If you're going to sell the necklace, put punch in. Make that necklace stand out, because that's the most important thing in the picture. If it's an atmospheric photograph of a woman, it's interesting, nice composition, et cetera, but it leaves you, as Walter says, wondering.
The image is called Necklace by Fran Marino, 21 points.
I imagine this in color look very different.
It's probably a color.
Yeah.
I didn't like this at all. There's no rapport between the photographer and the subject. Ergo, there is no rapport between the viewer and the photograph. It lacks emotion, it lacks drama, it's flat, it's straight on, and disproportionately so. You need more room at the top, you need more room on either side. If you're going to cut the hand off, put it behind her, put it in front of her, put it next to her, or crop in tighter so you don't have a dangling wrist on our right side. Again, I go back to rapport, R-A-P-P-O-R-T, the relationship between the subject and the photographer, and then between the photographer, the image, and the viewer. So it lacks any drama or any intensity as far as I'm concerned.
The image is called Mother to Be by Tammy Jankovic, 19 points.
This is similar to the one we saw before, in which the background is completely devoid of any texture, anything. Is just a black background that makes the image stand out. If you sit on the monitor, it pops way more. Here's a little flat. Yet I can see all the gradations in it. There is one thing that I took objection to it. I think this background was burned to get that crisp black. But when you do that, it's a telltale sign because the shape of things is not cookie cutter. If it's rounded, it's soft. If it's at an angle, it's sharper, and those changes between the black and the image should be reflected in those petals. Okay, so I can see the manipulation. I don't want to see it. The image is a good composition. It's kind of interesting. I will put more punch into it in the petals, either by bouncing a light off or just background lighting it, because petals are semi-transparent. So there's many ways to manipulate and see this thing. But other than the image itself is the fact that the manipulation, if you do it, always remember objects are not flat, they are forms, they have rounded forms, and light doesn't act the same way as in a cookie cutter, okay? Some areas are softer. Let's say a petal here should be softer if it's rounded, maybe sharper to a certain point. That makes it more believable.
The image is called Orchids in Black and White by Marge Brady, 24 points, third place.
Well, this one certainly is,
You got it, Bush?
I like this. It's composed very well. The lighting is very subtle. Detail throughout. The detail in the background is there, but it's not distracting. I think this was a very good image.
The image is called The Perfect Shave by Jackie Sayeski, 26 points, first place.
The image, the first thing that came to mind was Lee Marvin. Rugged.
I like the idea. I don't like the execution. I'm not the photographer. I don't know what was in his or her mind when she took the photo, when he or she took this photograph, or the message that they wanted to send or convey. And I'm confused by the imagery and the juxtaposition of the negative and the positive. So as an exercise in graphics, it works as something with emotional content that I'm supposed to respond to. I'm left sort of vacant.
The image is called New Orleans Trumpet Player by Gary Merrick, 22 points.
This is another portrait taken in a low key. It's very expressive. Notice the hands on the subject. Touching her heart, I believe she's eyes are slightly open. Okay. And it's very softly lit. Okay. It's going here for a nice, it's not even Rembrandt light. Rembrandt light is a little stronger than the 745 angle. I did ask, is this picture like this, or was it supposed to be straight in terms of composition? Looked at it both ways. And no, it's a lady in reclining, okay? I like the idea. I like the softness of it. I think it should have been more punched, more, the contrast should be a little stronger. Also, the cropping, I would have cropped more at the bottom and increased up, okay, to bring her down and give her more depth. I'm still working with it. I know the things I like, but it felt still a little cold.
So
That's not much punch.
much better rendition.
Yes, down there it makes better sense because the actual lighting on the body here becomes part of the shape. Okay, where here is more flat. on the photograph, the printed image here. So, yeah, maybe that's why I'm wrestling with those kind of things, because I want to like it, but there's certain things that I see much more potential for drama. Maybe it's just by spiking those lights, those middle tones a little more. Yeah, that's better there.
The image is called So Seductive by Tammy Jankovic, 19 points.
I thought this was pretty effective. It has impact. It takes a while to look at the picture to see what you're looking at. But I think it was pretty well done. It's got a nice tonal range, a lot of texture. And just like Herb said before, your eye goes to the lightest part. And that's where the photographer would want you to have your eye. I think it's done well.
The image is called Her Best Friend by Melanie Plummer, 25 points, second place.
I sort of like this. I'm not quite sure why I didn't like it, but I sort of do like it. It's got spontaneity to it. It's got a nice moment to it. It's got flair in her eyes and in her hands. I'm just not crazy about the fact that it's so posed and so formal. I'm not at all impressed with whatever she's wearing. I think that's very distracting. You get this large gray shape on the left, which totally detracts from her face and her hands. I, in my career, have sent hundreds of people home and told them to change clothes and come back because I didn't want to be distracted by distracting elements in the portrait, particularly when my livelihood depended on it. They may not know what I'm looking at, but I know what I'm looking at. And I feel when I see something that's distracting, I know that intuitively they're not going to know what I'm looking at or how to respond to it, but it's going to show up on the sales end. So I would dress, I would costume, I would promote a better position as far as the clothing goes for something like this if this was a paying job for me.
The image is called Belltown, Seattle Street Pianist by Gary Merrick, 23 points.
This time I'm looking at the picture there at the monitor to see because it is very, very low key, very flat, and I'm going to see if the monitor hides it out. It's almost a picture taken under a low light. Okay. The subject, in a way, is kind of hidden. Okay, because of the low key of the light, and I'm looking here at the photograph. Okay. Here's to one angle here, to one corner. Okay, as if maybe we're going through a tunnel and just approach a gentleman and he's resting on something. I don't know. I see a plume of smoke and yet it looks flat. Okay, the light is so weak. Okay, I think the subject would have been interesting, or maybe just kind of looking at us in some way, some expression. There's not much of an expression, just blowing out the cigar, and then we have all this part of the image is just darkness. Okay, yet I find no discovery, and when I look up, the composition looks difficult in the sense that it's just out of skew for me. So I can see it happening. If I know there's clothes here, I can barely distinguish. If I had seen this, that would have framed the composition better. It's not there. So it's. I think it's a good idea that needed to be worked more punch the lights, the contrast, and work with the subject.
The image is called Civil War Last Pup by Serena Cernik, 18 points.
Still not enough.
The composition is really good, architectural, a little flat. Here I would really have to agree with her. The black mount to really do us any favors. The picture itself has a lot of potential. I think if it were enhanced a little bit with a little bit more contrast. Here again, the monitor shows, I think, what the print. And there's texture throughout. I mean, the black's loaded with texture.
It's fabulous that we have the original print and the electronic reproduction of it, which really enhances the original print. It's so hard to talk about texture and light and darks and shadows and details, but through the miracle of electronics, you can actually see a powerful difference between the two images.
And this print could mimic that.
Yeah, very much so.
This thing could be printed with the same impact that the screen.
The image is called Christmas at Cleveland Arcade by Melanie Plummer, 20 points. That concludes the black and white portion. Now the pictorial.
Once again, the electronic reproduction has contrast, punch, has color, has details in it that the original print does not. The water is flat, it looks dirty, it doesn't have any emotional contact with me at all. It's a pretty picture. Let's go out to the river and set the camera up and take slow motion photographs. But the image on the monitor visually gives you a much clearer punch as to what it should look like on the print. This whole series of prints, I admire the person for doing them, but technically they're all off filter, whatever you want to call it, contrast depth, when they go to make the print.
The image is called Berea Falls by, hope I don't mispronounce your name, Cato Thomas, by, it's 21 points.
Same thing.
Same thing. I can just say, repeat the comment. That was exactly the same things we're having. One thing you can do is shoot at a different time of day, or just wait until the sun hits the water. So there's a little more pop. Change your f-stop a little bit. So there's certain things can be more. They can pop out more. Those interesting things in the water, which is what is going to have those little shines. It is well composed. Okay, and that's then I can see that. I will maybe crop just a little bit at the bottom, but yeah, bring it down a bit. But that's precisely it. It looks sort of flat here. There is no depth to it. Okay, and that it looks better here. But those are things that you cannot wait until it's printed, etc. You have to wear those things in advance, and when you shoot it again, you try to make those corrections. Okay, because there's a lot of potential in it. It's a matter of learning how to look for these details and say, how can I pop this out? How can I make the water more interesting? How can I get those ripples? How can I get that light dancing on those stones? Okay, how can I change the texture by changing my f-stops or filtering or whatever?
The image is called Berea Upper Falls by Rick Mills, 19 points.
your guitar picture. Yeah, what Herb described earlier, I think I was under the same impression. Here too, the composition, am I supposed to look at the guitar or at the woman? The first thing I see is the guitar. Second thing is the woman. So the composition here, the woman's looking out into space. This didn't do a whole lot.
The image is called Civil War Storyteller. The right image by Dave Korosek, 19 points.
Same comments as before. The monitor is what the print's supposed to look like. The print in front of us is yellow and brown, and the water just looks dirty.
All right, I'm not sure if I know what the title is here because it says camera, Berea camera, 1 inch. I can't read the handwriting, I'm sorry. 1 inch from the water. Okay, thank you. Rick Mills, 23 points.
Prolific. Gotta admire that.
I would say
You gotta go out and do it.
this is a more successful one in the sense that you can see that more contrast and more abstraction and direction of line in the water. That's where the interest is. When I see this kind of pictures, I gotta find a picture within a picture, and I'm saying, oh, okay, I'm sure the photographer look at it, it's the water, the ripples, the falls, that's the exciting thing. Why not go for broke? Why not just shoot an extreme close-up? Just the water, just the ripples, just that, and see what happens. Okay, especially when the beam of light it's hitting in that sense. Okay, try the different half stops, and you'll be surprised how big you can discover. You know, you had time to explore and to experiment, and that's the moment to do it. This for once, I kind of like it better in the picture, not in the monitor. Why? Because maybe it's a little more softer, a little more warmer here. Looks a little more colder here. I like the warmth that you can see from the rocks all the way that yellow that fluctuates directionally to the second cascade.
The image is called Berea Lower Falls by Rick Mills, 20 points.
I really liked this image. It's almost abstract, but it's not abstract. The background, I think it's terrific. Subtle color. I just liked it. It's a soft image, almost impressionist. I think it was done very well.
Certainly the best flower tonight.
Interesting.
And if I was in charge of this competition, I would make 4 rules. No babies, no cats, no sunsets, and no flowers. Which means you gotta go out and work for it, kids. But this is a magnificent image.
You're here for the babies.
The image is called Passion Flower by Vicky Worth, a perfect score, 27 points.
Yeah, these are lousy bulbs. You need 5,000 K bulbs. And I'm not good for them. You need the bulbs.
From where I'm getting everything equal flat. Yeah, that's a big difference. That's a big difference.
Who's Vicky? Congratulations. Well, see, that's too warm too. This is a cooler light.
Yeah.
Yeah. Vicki, aren't you supposed to give the judges a copy of perfect? I thought that was part of our agreement. That's fine. All right, where was this picture taken?
Is that Pritchard Gardens in Victoria, British Columbia?
The one you're looking at now or the flower?
That's, it's mine, it's in the Dolomites, Italian Alps.
This one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But it was New Zealand.
I thought it was New Zealand. Whose turn?
Yours.
Mine. All right, it's a good picture. It would be better if you cut off 4 inches from the bottom, straight across, and just cropped it underneath.
You need to get closer here.
Ah, is that right? Crop it like right across here, right below that ridge. Get rid of all this dark space underneath. Gorgeous image.
The image is,
If you're gonna have a landscape, this is the landscape today.
Notice one thing on those clouds. I don't know if I use a filter, but this is how lovely they come out. I mean, you can see those beautiful shapes, soft, pillowy shapes, do a dark, nice, a nice contrast without overpowering those cracks and sharp and textured mountains. I thought it's spectacular, and the way they actually bounce the light right into that valley. It's very good. In my case, I would just trim a little bit here because I want to see that in the composition.
And in my case, I have a view camera and make a gorgeous black and white negative.
the image is called Room with a View by Dennis Wirt. Dennis, she beat you by 1 point. 26 points, second place.
I thought that this was one of the most emotional images on display tonight. I thought it was beautifully seen, beautifully printed. I don't know if these are real colors or computer-generated colors, but the whole composition, the dark bands, both on top and on bottom, that held the light in between, was just beautifully seen and elegantly rendered. I really liked it.
It's my turn, so I'm going to echo that. I gave it a 9. I gave it a 9 because
I did
precisely for the fact that it's very deceptively simple. Nothing much seems to be happening here, but you just can't take your eyes on it. The color is just spot on. It adds so much mystery to it. And when there's some mystery, you know what happens? You look at it longer. You say you want to know what's the rest of the story. What is the drama in the image? Okay, and that's one thing you want to do. Either when you're dressing up, that's why ladies dress up, or you want people to look at you. What?
When I looked at this image, it's a very good image. But in my mind, I tried to picture what this would look like in black and white.
It wouldn't work at all.
I
No,
don't know
No.
about that. I would love to see it.
it's a color. The subject of the image is color.
That's the mystery.
And that's what separates it between black and white.
I'm not going to argue about it, but I'd like to see it in black and white because something like this, in black and white, can really be.
Oh, it was still being powerful
Really?
both ways, but I think if you turn it into black and white, which is what, many people do, yes, it will have an impact, but here, the color simply, just that flat, adds so much more to
The
it.
color speaks for itself, there's no question about it.
Yeah.
Well, the reason I said that, when I was, years ago, I climbed Long's Peak in I was on the mountain for 4 days. And the one morning, when I got up, I saw something very comparable to this.
Mhm.
And I shot it in black and white. And of course, it was, when I printed it, you'd have to see it. It has a major, major. So, yeah, I think this, whether this was black and white if it was done properly, it would have some.
The image is called Morning Glory by Bob Kowaleski, 26 points, second place.
It's a decent image. There's nothing spectacular about it. It's subtle, it's soft. The lighting, the tonalities, I think are really good. But we've seen some other images tonight that I think supersede it.
The image is called Detroit Golden Hour by Rich Foley, 24 points, third place.
All right, so we're back to baseball. The problem with the picture is that the depth of field is so precise that you can't tell what the photographer was looking at. The baseball players are in the foreground. Everything is in clear depth of field. It's very visually confusing. And because it's not an isolated, it's not, I'll say, prime lens, because it's not isolated, because the background isn't really out of focus, you can't tell what you're looking at.
And notice how this lady has become part of the composition.
Yeah.
Your eye keeps going this
Yeah.
way.
The image is called Crack of the Bat by Eric Wethington, 18 points.
This is a picture in which it's very rich in detail. The color gradation is just very subtle, but it's a nice pleasant color. It's not straight on. There's a slight angle to all those little ridges. The only thing that bugs me is this line here. Okay, on it, because I think it takes away from the composition. So if I'm going to go with something with just color, texture, cragginess, that I can just look at it, this will be it. I will even get it even tighter to make it more of an abstraction. That's the only thing my mind can focus on. Okay, it's a very simple composition. Whoever took this picture is saying, wow, look at the beauty of this landscape, or this stony landscape, those cathedrals made by nature. And that's the way I would view it.
This is Bryce Canyon. Bryce Canyon is not an easy place to go. Very challenging, in fact. The lighting is always a challenge. I agree with the line at the top that the eye wants to see as horizontal. Yeah. But this was a pretty decent rendition. It's not an easy place to go.
The image is called Bryce Canyon Vista by Mike Kopkis, 24 points, third place.
Too much.
This,
Oh.
Composition, I think, is pretty good. The presentation, the color, I mean, skies don't look that color. And the upper clouds don't look that color. It does look better on the screen than it does on the print. But when we judge this in good light, it had the same, it gave you the same impression.
When I saw it the first time, I thought it was a tidal wave that was coming to engulf the church.
I thought it was the ocean.
Yeah.
Too over posterized.
Yes.
Way too much.
Too burns.
If you're going to sit down and manipulate a print, back off.
Okay, this is good. If you look at the print and look at the monitor, you can see the clouds are not white, they're blue. They're kind of a turquoise, especially the upper layers of clouds. One thing about color, especially something like this, the color speaks for itself, but the color has to be accurate. It's got to be real. And, the print does not show real color. And the church is kind of the yellowish, whereas on the screen. But that can all be corrected. The image itself is composed pretty well. If you look at the screen, you don't get so much the title.
The image is called The Only Wedding Chapel Around by Rich Foley, 22 points.
Someone want to jump in?
I thought it was well done. I've seen a lot more pictures that are more well done. It needs brighter light. It needs that this area has incredible luminosity inside of it when the sun hits it in the right place. So yes, you were there. Yes, you took the picture. Yes, it's got nice composition. No, the lighting is off and doesn't really do the place drama.
The image is called Another Realm by Bill Keaton, 23 points.
This is a good contrast when we think of the ones that got the total black background, or in which we have those shapes. They're almost painterly shapes. They look more like soft watercolor brushstrokes than water or whatever it is. For whatever reason, it does add to the image. Okay, it's pleasant enough. I can see the flower. Strange enough that those lines don't go behind the flower, that we just kind of almost added around it. Okay, but they somehow seem to work if I approach it from that painterly quality. It's a nice, pleasant color. So just on that alone, on the artistic part, I think the composition, because of the way the background was manipulated in this case, works for me.
The image is called Tree Frog on Water Lily by Dave Sabor, 24 points, third place.
It's a good image, but the guy's got a cigarette holder in his mouth with a cigarette that almost makes it kind of cartoonish. The lighting is good, the composition is good, the color is good. I would have maybe tried this one. She's got kind of a custom income. I mean, that's what the photographer wanted to capture, he did.
I would have centered it much more.
Yeah, that being said, and me being left, and we love soap opera. This has all the qualities of a soap opera. I mean, look at that guy, his smirk, etc. I mean, the cigarette holder covering his eye. All we know is kind of sinister, kind of, you know, there's something filthy about it, and she knows it. She's in the joke, and she's looking, so there's that connection that I like the, you know, it's got a painted background, so obviously they were posing to it. But I'm saying, yeah, she put me up to this. She thinks it's smart.
The image is called The Director's Cut by Fran Marino, 23 points.
I gave this a 9 because It was unique, it was dramatic, it was very well done. I'm not totally sure of what I'm looking at or how the photographer got to where he or she is as far as making the print, but I thought it was absolutely marvelous. There's nothing, you know, you can, there's nothing to pull apart. It's nothing to criticize. There's nothing to critique. It's just a marvelous image that's there to be enjoyed, and I enjoyed it thoroughly.
The image is called Rainbow in Tuscany, Italy by Susan Vestal, 24 points, third place.
The picture is well done. It's not, from the monitor, you can very well define. I can see the subject from the background. The background gets been, it got that level of blurriness, yet it's still rich, interesting without being too obtrusive. Maybe a little more contrast on the subject here, just to highlight that and the branches. The tail has been slightly cut off there. At the bottom, still, I don't think it detracts too much from it. So I think it's a good picture of the bird and background, nice, rich.
The image is called Lessons Matmat by Belinda Prince, 21 points.
I think it's well composed. I think the mood that the photographer wanted to capture. Looking at the monitor and looking at the print, I kind of have the print better.
This one could go either way. I looked at this and I thought it was too dark, but depending on where it's hung. And printing also is a function of how it's going to be used and where it's going to be exhibited. If it's going in a bright room, you could get away with a darker print. If it's going in a hallway, you need an absolutely lighter print. So that's part of the consideration. And as a black and white and particularly platinum printmaker, I have to take that into consideration when I sit down with a client and say, where are you going to hang this? Because if it's going to go in an area where there's lots of drapes and shades, then I'm going to make a much lighter print. If it's going to go in a living room or a dining room where there's a lot of ambient light, I'm going to make a much darker print.
It's an artist who does a lot of lighting for theater. One thing I have to tell you is that many times I take my own light bulbs. And I tend to combine a cool with a one-on-one. When I want to strike a certain balance on an image. So if you're going to go to a show, you better go there and see the lights first, bring a sample, and then make the adjustment because it is so important.
It's a lovely little moment.
The image is called Sisterly Love by Jackie Sayeski, 26 points, second place.
Now,
Who's turn? Is it me?
if you got to have a cat shot, this is a great one.
Fantastic.
We all agree, this is just a great cat. And I have to say, much to my chagrin, that it's the absolute right size. You don't want to blow this one up 16 by 20, it'll scare the hell out of the kids next door. It fits perfect. It's beautifully seen, beautifully composed, nice job.
I'm gratified by the fact that I just didn't take a picture of a cat. They capture the personality of the animal, which is so important when doing animal pictures. Okay, there's some of that in it.
The image is called Kit Kat by Tammy Jankovic, 24 points, third place.
We've seen a bird picture before. This is a more interesting picture because the pose is so much more interesting. It's very nice